Hello, everyone.
Peter, you're very tall.
Yes, I'm sorry, but can you hear me? That's the most important thing. Okay. Yeah, I want to say good morning. We have this, I think they can hear me. It's good. I want to say good morning, but we're at this awkward point in the program where it's not really morning anymore. But hello and welcome to the EEA seminar. You see, I'm all dressed up because this is a very special time for me. It's almost like Christmas, being able to talk about the EEA agreement to all of my EEA nerd friends. So welcome. I hope you enjoy it as much as me. As you can see here, my name is Pétur Gunnarsson, and I work as an officer at the ECD, or the EEA Coordination Division. And my role on a day-to-day basis is, as Ásdís mentioned, to have a dialogue and service these committees that have been set up. And I will be presenting to you, which we call the advisory bodies. As you see here in the overview, I'm first gonna just explain to you who are these advisory bodies. You might not know them, and it's actually not a formal term. You can't read any legal text that will say advisory bodies, but to ease our life, we kind of group them all into one, and also to make your lives harder to have another acronym. And before we start, I'm sorry about all of the acronyms and the abbreviations in the EEA agreement with EFTA and EEA-EFTA. I'll try to be as clear as I can to make your lives easier. We're going to start with this brief introduction. Then we're going to discuss the parliamentary scrutiny side, the parliamentary committee, then the social partners, the committee that I am the secretary to and work with on a daily basis, then the local and regional dimension also, which is quite important. And then I'll end with kind of a discussion on the scrutiny in the EEA-EFTA pillar. Then we will have, I think, a small, nice panel here with some of the previous speakers. So I'm actually taking you to Geneva. We're not in Brussels anymore. We're now in Geneva, where the Aftera Council sits. And the Aftera Council has set up all of these committees to take care of business there, and including the two advisory bodies. So these two, the Parliamentary Committee and the Consultative Committees, are actually committees that predate the EEA agreement and were set up by the Aftera Council in Geneva originally. As the names indicate, the EFTA Parliamentary Committee consists of a group of EFTA parliamentarians from all of the different parliaments. And the Consultative Committee is our high-level representatives of the two sides of industry, or the social partners, as I like to call them. So trade unions, businesses, and employers associations. Each of these committees, and I counted the members, have 18 members formally. And they were actually set up already in the 60s. So I'm going to take you also back in time, because as Henri explained earlier a little bit about the history of EFTA, EFTA did not start as the EEA agreement. So, and there's also a differentiation between EFTA and EEA-EFTA. And I'm going to make it visual for you. This is EEA-EFTA, and this is EFTA. So we just take out Switzerland to clarify, just for everyone to be on the same page. And the EFTA Consultative Committee was actually the first body to be set up under as an advisory body in 1961 with the decision of the EFTA Council. Then the EFTA Parliamentary Committee started meeting in 1963, and the cooperation was formalized in 1977. So this is a historical development that predates the EEA agreement. And the original role of the committees was to provide advice to the EFTA member states on everything that EFTA did, the organization did, which was at the time mainly trade with as we call it in the jargon, relations with third countries, which means trade, basically. But today we have the EEA agreement, and in 1992, the EFTA countries were quite practical because they said, "Oh, we already have these committees. We have a basis there, and let's just have them do the EEA stuff as well." So we have a double-hatted role, both on relations with third countries and then also with relations with the EU. So the EEA agreement, and this is what we will focus on today. I'm not going to talk about trade here. This picture you might have seen, the famous two-pillar structure of the EEA. Wow, that was supposed to be like for all of them, not only the Parliamentary Committee, but the graphic doesn't agree with me. But just imagine that it covers all of the three bottom committees. So the Aftera Parliamentary Committee, Aftera Consultative Committee, and the EEA Aftera Forum. As you can see, you have a mirror. And this has been explained to you probably before, but we also have these joint committees in the middle. And the EEA Joint Parliamentary Committee is the joint body of where the members of the European Parliament and the EFTA parliamentarians meet. We also have one for the EFTA Consultative Committee, where we meet with partners on the EU side, the European Economic and Social Committee. And there we have the EEA Consultative Committee. And then finally, we have two committees. So one is the EEA and EFTA Forum, and then the Committee of the Regions. They don't have a joint committee. I will explain later. First, the Parliamentary Dimension. Extremely important, and this committee serves quite a vital role in the monitoring of and sort of scrutiny of the EEA agreement. They meet 2 times per year, once in Strasbourg, the seat of the European Parliament, and once in one of the EEA EFTA states. This year it's actually in Strasbourg in March, and then in December in Liechtenstein in Vaduz. And my colleague who's actually here, Christoph, he's in the back. If you want to say hello and talk to him later on, he's there. He is the secretary to this committee, and they comprise of, on one side, as I mentioned before, the members of EFTA States Parliament, and on the other, members of the European Parliament. And their role, yes, as I said, is to monitor the developments of the EEA, both general developments and then also more specific legislative, ongoing legislative processes. And they tend to focus on what's most important, so the big picture stuff. And they can also express their views in the form of resolutions, reports, opinions. But the main, and to adopt once a year a sort of yearly review of the EEA developments in the EEA. But most of their work today is based on dialogue. It's dialogue driven. So the members of the European Parliament speaking directly with parliamentarians from the EEA EFTA states. There you can see a nice picture of a meeting of the EEA Joint Parliamentary Committee in 2022, so last year. Where you have the chair of the EU side, Mr. Andreas Schwab, and chair of the EFTA side last year, Ingibjörg Ólöf Isaksen from Iceland. There they were meeting in Strasbourg. So on the social partners, so this is my bread and butter on a daily basis. We have the 2 sides of industry represented on the EFTA side. And we meet usually once a year with our EU counterparts, the European Economic and Social Committee. Actually, we have a special occasion this year because we meet twice per year. So that's quite nice. We were set up as the Parliamentary Committee also before by article in the EEA agreement. The Parliamentary Committee is article number 95, and the joint or the Consultative Committee is article 96. So if you're really into the legal text, you can see that we have a basis there. We have a similar role to the Parliamentary Committee, but we have different actors. So there are different interests at stake, and the EEA Consultative Committee is sometimes more interested in developments that are directly impacting the social partners, the labor unions, industry, and business. When we actually express our views as well in written resolutions and reports, which are released on a yearly basis and adopted at the plenary session. I really recommend that you all go on the EFTA website to read these. They are fascinating. The last one was on energy resilience in the EEA, a very relevant topic. And there actually just an anecdote on the European Economic and Social Committee. It's quite a lot larger than the EFTA Consultative Committee. I think you have very many members, and I just looked up how many people work in the European Economic and Social Committee. It's around 700, and I'm one working full time. Although I get help from my colleagues, so they're quite good. So the odds are stacked against me in some ways, but I try my best. Also, another difference on the EU side, they have representatives from both the social partners, so labor unions, and then also the business and industry, but also from other civil society actors. So there's a slight difference there on the two committees. And we go then to the EEA local and regional authorities, which is the final committee that I will be discussing here. It's more of an informal body, but it has been set up by the EFTA Standing Committee, unlike the other two, and it is a lot newer. It's a newer invention, so it was formally set up in 2009 by a Standing Committee decision. You might ask, why wasn't it set up when the EEA agreement was signed? This is an anomaly. The answer is the Committee of the Region, their counterpart on the EU side, was not set up, I think, until 1993. So after the signature of the EEA agreement. So this was kind of always missing, this link, but now they meet 2 times per year. And I work as their counterpart. Here you see a family photo, quite literally, because there's a child in the photo, which is the daughter of the chair that came along. This encapsulates the EFTA spirit quite well. And also what captures the EFTA spirit quite well there is that we have Swiss observers, but they actually invited us kindly to Switzerland to have the meeting in Jura. And we had a really productive meeting where we discussed an opinion on the Gigabit Infrastructure Act and on digitalization. What I also want to highlight here when it comes to the local and regional authorities is they're an important but often underrated partner in the EEA cooperation, because in the end, it is very often them that are implementing on the ground what has been decided here in Brussels and by the member states. The same goes for the social partners as well. They are the ones, the businesses, the workers that will be actually enacting on the legislation that comes their way. Finally, we have this really nice picture of Henri, so I made a special slide just for that. Here you can see him with the Norwegian and Icelandic foreign ministers at a meeting, of course, with the advisory bodies. That's why they're so happy, because they're so really, they're such funny meetings.
It was his birthday.
And it was his birthday, actually, as well. I think they were singing to him, maybe. No. But we also have this scrutiny on the EFTA pillar, or the EEA EFTA pillar, which is outside of the joint cooperation. So we meet regularly with members or the member states or officials from the member states to discuss the EEA agreement on our side. So more kind of family business driven meetings. And this is quite an integral part as well, because the EEA cooperation, of course, impacts all of these actors quite a lot, and it's good to be able to voice opinions from parliamentarians, from social partners, directly to the ministers and the other officials working on them on all kind of levels. The consultative committee, for example, meets also with the ambassadors once a year in March, and with the working groups, so the technical experts as well. And to leave you with some final remarks and kind of food for thought, maybe. Well, it is, of course, my opinion that these committees are the most important thing about the EEA agreement, but that's just my opinion. I think other people might disagree with me, but they are indeed a very important communication channel to the political, economic, social, and civil society circles in the EFTA member states. What does this mean to be a communication channel? Well, these are people sitting in a committee that also have a role in the domestic dialogue on the EEA and on EFTA matters as well. So they are bringing back their knowledge and their advice, not only to the ministers and the member states, but also to enlighten the domestic discussion on these topics. And I think the more discussion we have on the EEA, normally, the better. So they are quite important in that sense. And they're also there to bring the EEA agreement closer to regular people, people who vote for you, or the people who are in your labor union, etc. And finally, I would just like to underline that these committees are set up to also ensure democratic accountability and increase the legitimacy of the EEA agreement, which I believe is becoming more and more important in recent years. So I will end with that. Thank you.